Welcome to more adventures with Bud Nupel, with Part 3 of Telepathically Bankrupt. In our last installment, Bud Nupel revealed that his government has been secretly plotting with the leaders and bankers of our world for decades. Meanwhile, Bud is suffering from a virus that he's hoping will be cured with a special treatment involving whiskey and a buck stove. Bud was about to reveal more about his plan to thwart the government when there was a knock at the door. "Ah, that would be my acquaintance," Bud said. I got up to answer the door. A tall, lanky man, who looked to be in his 50s, was standing at the door. He was holding a package wrapped in plain brown paper about the size of a shoebox. He was dressed in blue jeans and a blue down parka and looked apprehensive.
"I have a package for Mr. Bud Nupel,"
he said. I invited him in, but before I could warn him about the low doorway, he knocked his head on it. He followed me into the front room, rubbing his forehead.
"You were right. I picked up a tail when I got the package out of storage,"
he said as he handed the package to Bud.
"But I used the scrambling device you gave me. I had no problem losing them,"
he said smugly. "That's good. They may eventually find us, but by then, it will be too late to stop us," Bud said confidently. "James, let me introduce you to Professor Robert Bowling, Jr." Bud said as he stood up. I reached out to shake his hand. Robert's father, as you recall, with my help, was the inventor of the Presto log. Dr. Bowling is a professor of biophysics, Bud explained. "Nice to meet you," I said.
"Actually, we've met once before, but it was several years ago. I'm sure you don't remember,"
Professor Bowling said.
"You picked me up at the Edgewood truck stop and took me to the airport. That was back in 1980, if my memory serves me correctly."
I thought for a moment, and then remembered my first encounter with Bud. Oh, so that wasn't just a coincidence. I asked no one in particular. "Exactly and precisely," Bud said. "There is very little coincidence in the universe." My curiosity was killing me. What's in the box? I wanted to know. "Well, I know it's still early in the morning," Bud said, and cleared his throat. "But perhaps I need to continue my therapy before I explain the box." He smiled and handed me the shot glass. "Sure," I said. I offered Professor Bowling a chair and then got out a fresh bottle of Jack Daniels and went into the kitchen to get the coffee. I poured everyone a cup and filled 3 shot glasses. Bud knocked down a shot of Jack Daniels and then wrapped a blanket over his shoulders and sat huddled up to the fire. "I need to explain a little about what you might call interdimensional planetary mechanics," Bud started to explain. "Consider the tree branch, James. As a branch grows, there becomes a point where the branch has the opportunity to divide and continue its growth down to pass." Bud pointed out the window to the leafless apple tree. "You see how that happens over and over again as the tree grows. You have to think of your planet Earth as a living being, a plant, if you wish," Bud said and took a sip of coffee. "It is the limits of the human mind that restrict the perception of your planet." Bud paused in thought. "People perceive Earth as merely a large inanimate spinning ball. That's a long way from when people thought it was flat. How can I explain it? Bud asked. Let's just say it requires a more expansive awareness to see its true and full being. We all sat without a sound and stared at the fire in the buck stove. Finally, I asked Bud, are you saying the Earth is really just a big tree? Exactly and precisely, Bud said. Well, maybe not precisely, but planets grow, just like all beings. The point I am trying to make is that your planet is approaching the branching point, where the opportunity exists for it to grow a new branch. I sat silently, trying to digest what Bud had just said. It sounded logical, but a bit like science fiction. Could the Earth really be like a living plant? And what did it mean that it could branch and divide? Professor Bowling broke the silence.
Well, the troubling thing is there are people on this planet that know this and hope to take advantage of that knowledge.
Exactly and precisely, Bud said. Most people on this planet have no idea what is happening. And he shook his head disappointedly. But there are those that have been dealing with my government who are fully aware of the situation and hope to profit from it, Bud said angrily. Will what you have in the box stop them from bankrupting our economy? I had to ask. No, sadly, we cannot stop their plans for economic Armageddon. But their own arrogance and wishful thinking will be their demise. Bud seemed assured. They will reap what they sow. That is a cosmic law that cannot be broken and must be obeyed. But what I have in the box could help our cause create a new world that is not based on financial gain. Bud went on. If we are able to successfully deploy it. What's in the box? I really was wondering now. It's a kind of energy transverter, Bud said mysteriously. It's going to require some adjustments to get it to work.
I can pick up that equipment you requested tomorrow,
Professor Bowling said. Excellent. Bud stood up and rubbed his hands over the fire in excited anticipation. He turned to me and asked, Are you familiar at all with spherical geometry, James? Well, I was pretty good at geometry in school, I said.
Good. Then you might know something about the star tetrahedra, he said. A star tetrahedra is similar to the six-pointed star that is formed by placing two triangles on top of each other, like the Star of David, he explained. The star tetrahedra is created by using two three-sided pyramids in a similar manner.
It was a little difficult to imagine in my head, but I took Bud's word for it. Now, if you place such an object inside a sphere, such as your planet, with the top and bottom aligned to the poles, you will find that the other points on the star touch the sphere at exactly and precisely 19.5 degrees. If I had not known Bud as well as I did, I would have thought he was crazy. But I knew better than that. 19.5 degrees is always an important location in planetary mechanics, Bud explained. Study any planet, and you will find hotspots at exactly and precisely the 19.5 degree location, Bud said. He had an air of authority about him. Professor Bowling and Bud discussed the technical details of setting up the energy transverter while I busied myself with straightening up the place. Oops. We had just finished up the third pot of coffee as the morning came to a close. We haven't much time to spare, Bud said to me and then announced, we'll need to depart first thing tomorrow morning. Will you be able to accompany us, James? Bud asked me.
Sure, but where exactly are we going? I asked. We need to go to latitude 19.5 degrees north, 155.6 degrees west. There, you will find the largest shield volcano on your planet, Bud said, pointing his finger in the air. We will be deploying to Hawaii. I gasped. Hawaii? Yes, Bud replied. Professor, can you gather the necessary supplies and meet us at the spaceship tomorrow?
Sure, I'll leave right away. I'll meet both of you guys out there tomorrow morning at the spaceship. So both of you get a good night's sleep and, well, I'll see you then. Good night, the professor said.
Yes, a good night to you too. We must all get a good night's sleep, because tomorrow we have a planet to save. To be continued.